What's going on, everyone? I'm coming to you with an interview today we have with a Dr. Jane Doe and her attorney, Miss Deborah.
Aaron.
Yes, Miss Deborah Barron. I got all these different names going on in my head today, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, Dr. Jane Doe wants to tell us something that is happening at St. Louis University Medical Center and something that probably will anger a lot of you that's going on. Things is just utterly wrong. But I will let her introduce herself. Dr. Jane Doe.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jane Doe, and I was taking part in a fellowship at St. Louis University School of Medicine when I encountered a foreign-born physician supervisor who made a lot of racist statements against African Americans, sexually harassed me, and also gave honors grades to people of his same background, nationality, simply based on their nationality, even when they didn't show up for work.
Okay, that's for some people who don't know, a fellow is what?
A fellowship is a person that has graduated from medical school. They have their MD, and and they're allowed to train clinically. Now, it's training as a clinician.
Okay, so basically residency for a lot of people who don't understand the medical terms. Now, you stated the nationality of is he a doctor, correct?
He is a physician, yes.
Okay.
Dr. Muhammad Naeem.
Okay, and what is his actual nationality?
From Pakistan.
From Pakistan. Okay, so what is the very first time that you had like something that was just very wrong with this doctor?
I'd say it was from the very start. He began sexually harassing me, making comments about my body physically and how I was tall and slim and beautiful, and then he began saying, my wife doesn't care if I have a girlfriend, repeatedly. But around my second week, he made some statements about our veterans. This was at a VA hospital, but I was St. Louis University School of Medicine employee. He said to me that 99.9% of the black veterans were just drug seekers. And he really treated them like insects. On another occasion, we had a young African-American patient in the room trying to care for him. And he was so young, he left the room momentarily to get his mother. And when he was out of the room, he said, oh, she has brought him 4 pounds of bananas for lunch.
Wow.
And I said, what?
4 pounds of bananas.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious about something. What did he say about the white veterans that came through the facility?
He thought that we were all stupid Americans, but most especially the African Americans.
Okay, so he don't like Americans at all. He called them all stupid, but he particularly have an issue with black people to the point that he said that they're bringing bananas to the VA.
Yes.
Okay, now, has he acted anywhere racist toward any African American nurses, doctors, anywhere else that you may know?
Absolutely. In a conversation we had a couple of months later, he told me that the intellectual ability of the black female nurses was very limited, so I'd have to keep things very simple for them to grasp, so they would be able to grasp information. I was just blown. That was probably the last day I ever worked with him. Probably worked with him maybe another few days, but I reported him very soon after that, probably that same day.
So why do you think he felt comfortable saying that in front of you or other people outside of African Americans? Because I'm curious why he felt so comfortable.
I have no idea. I think it's just so endemic in his belief system that he's just comfortable with it.
Well, that's not really what I was getting at. What I was getting at, you know how you say things and, you know, you feel comfortable you could say it because, you know, the people around you agree with you to a point, or they just not going to say anything. I mean, was that the environment what made him feel like it's okay for me to be a racist and also for me to disrespect the veterans that fought for this country? I mean, I was just trying to understand the environment.
No, not really. I mean, we're all there because at least all of the Americans that were there, have a strong passion for caring for military veterans. And it doesn't matter what their skin color is. I don't know. I think it's just a personal feeling for him. I never made any gestures like that or made him feel comfortable in any way saying something so obscene.
So this guy, I mean, is he a U.S. citizen? Did they bring him here? How did he get here? What's his backstory?
Well, he came here with his wife when he was 25 years old.
From what country?
And he was accepted at St. Louis University School of Medicine for his residency. Now, for all y'all that don't know, that is a person that has graduated from medical school. So he graduated from medical school in Pakistan. Okay. And then he had to do the mandatory residency period, which is anywhere from 3 to 7 years, depends on what you go into, in order to practice autonomously. So when he was in his residency here, he was accepted at St. Louis University. Sorry to repeat myself if I did. And he was once accused of sexual harassment during his intern year, his first year. And that shows a pattern. I think that's part of the reason Dr. Monopoli comes into this, because she was his program director and she was my program director at this time. So he's been able to get away with all kinds of things. He said, I can do whatever I want while I'm here. I don't have to see my patients because they're in a controlled environment at the VA. Just outrageous statements like that are making the VA just a terrible place to be for medical care. But yeah, I mean, at 25, he was here, and she has now, when I told her all of this, Dr. Monopoli, when I expressed all my concerns about the sexual harassment and the racism, she looked at me and she said, is that it?
Wow.
Yes.
Like that's supposed to be normal behavior too, because this is the thing. It's like we talk about the police, that if you have racism, you're going to react a certain way toward the different people that you have racism toward. So it makes me wonder, how did he care for the black veterans that fought for this country? Did he give them any old medication? Did he not care about them, or even whoever? Because he said stupid Americans, and that covers all groups of people. I mean, how was his level of care? Because that really concerns me.
His level of care was very poor as far as the African Americans veterans were concerned. He spent very little time with them, didn't give them any medication, or very little medication. So I made it a point, I could see this going on before he made the horrendous statements. And I would make it a point to spend, an hour or two extra with them just so they could speak to someone, to voice their concerns. Because here I am in training. I'm not the boss, but I can spend time and try and help and make suggestions and tell them, I think this is wrong. But in the end, he makes the decisions, unfortunately.
Now, but before we say anything else, for some people may say, well, maybe she's just grown-up. Well, I got to see all her evaluations, because she kept it, and it was exceed, superior. She was going above the call of duty to do her job. So it's not like that she was just a bad doctor and they just didn't want her no more, and she's just making up stuff on this guy. Everything that she had in her record was awesome. So I just want to make sure I put that out there for someone to say, well, maybe she's just disgruntled against this guy. So continuing, you stated that he sexually harassed you. I mean, if you can, would you mind explaining exactly what did he do? Did he say something to you? Did he put his hands on you? What did he actually do?
When I first started working there, he brushed his right hand across my left breast, and said, "Oh, excuse me." That was the beginning, and then the comments about my body, and then saying over and over again that his wife doesn't care if he has a girlfriend. And then we went to him asking me to introduce myself as his girlfriend. I remember one time when the phone rang in the physician's lounge, I said, "I think this is your spouse on the phone." And he said, "Oh, pick it up and tell her you're my girlfriend." And I said, "No. I mean, this is just outrageous."
So basically you're saying this man is hate Americans. He especially is racist toward African Americans, don't give them the proper care that they need, especially for fighting for this country, and all the things that veterans go through. On top of that, he's a sexual deviant. So he's a piece of work. He don't mind cheating on his wife, and that's fine. Now, are you single or are you married?
I'm married. I'm married to actually 100% disabled military veteran who was injured in a combat mission in Iraq.
Okay. Now, what did your husband say about the things I'm pretty sure you went home and told him?
You know, I didn't tell him what was going on. I didn't. He was so sick at that time. I eventually told him that Dr. Naeem had sat me down, Muhammad Naeem, at the VA. He was, by the way, at Jefferson Barracks VA in Building 51. Mm-hmm. He sat me down and he said, "Now think about it. I think your husband is not disabled. I think he's just faking it to get out of working. You need to use your abilities as a physician and as the psychiatry training you've gotten to question him in depth and get the information out of him." And because he was certain that my husband was faking his disabilities from the injury from the combat mission so that he didn't have to work. I thought, if you're thinking this about my husband, what are you thinking about the rest of the disabled veterans that you're supposed to be caring for? You think this is a joke? And what makes me angry is that the United States government is paying him over $250,000 a year to work, to take care of our people, and he's not.
Wow. Wait a minute. Hold on. So you have someone they brought from Pakistan over here. You have people who want to be doctors and make that kind of money, and who actually American citizens who love the country, who love what the veterans have done or to support the veterans. And you have this really extreme anti-American racist guy who's a sexual deviant making $250,000 off of the U.S. government, and yet he gets to hold that position. Now,
yes, and I can't figure out why. Because his boss, Dr. Metzger, he is aware, and he's had multiple complaints on many occasions from the nursing staff that he doesn't respond to their calls. He doesn't see patients when he's supposed to. He didn't really show up to work till 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And I'm wondering, what are they thinking? I mean, once I lost faith in my program director, Dr. Monopoli, I then went to a higher entity at St. Louis University, which was Dr. Robert Haney. He was head of the GME, the Graduate Medical Education Program there. And I told him what was going on. And at first he was saying, "Oh, yes, you've got to come forward. You've got to say something." And when they figured out that, when I went to the HR department, they sussed out and decided that I didn't have enough witnesses or enough evidence, then they got rid of me instead of him.
Okay, so they saw, well, it's her word against his. So since we feel that it's her word against his, she's probably lying. So let's go ahead and retaliate against her, which is against the law to retaliate against anyone who reports sexual harassment or discrimination or whatever. It's against the law to do that, and that's 100% wrong. Now, once they let you go, you have your lawyer here, Miss Deborah Barron. Miss Deborah, did they violate the law by what they did to her?
Most definitely. In addition to the discrimination and the retaliation and the harassment, you didn't hear the whole story. Someone, after she reported this the first time, the sexual harassment and the discrimination against the vets and the African American nurses, someone went out and slashed all her tires that night after work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute, Miss Deborah, hold on. This is something that we would normally hear with people that's doing like criminal behavior, not people who went to medical school.
Right, exactly. They think they're above the law, and that's St. Louis in general. It's not just St. Louis University; it's the entire area. They're 20 years behind the times as far as abiding by the law and civil rights. They just don't believe they have to abide by the law. And they've been able to get away with it for years. And the buck's going to stop here. This is the end of it.
Yes, because I've made it clear I will not go away and I will not be quiet. People will find out about this. It's going to stop now.
And it definitely needs to stop. I'm just disturbed that all this stuff is going on, in a place that veterans need to come to get help. I mean, because they go through PTSD, they have a lot of injuries. The country really don't treat veterans right anyway. I mean, you got a lot of homeless veterans. They don't give them free health care. Now, let me ask you a question, Doctor. Do you feel that the VA system is so messed up where they should just give our soldiers free health care and go to your own private doctors?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because what happens, and I can tell you from experience because my husband has been through many different doctors, you can only develop a trusting relationship with maybe a couple of physicians. And if those physicians are not in the VA system, they should be able to see them anyway.
Correct.
Yes.
I mean, so you, with Miss Deborah, filed a suit, correct?
Well, it was actually a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which is a federal, across the country, federal agency that enforces and investigates violations of civil rights in the workplace, most particularly all forms of discrimination, harassment, retaliation against those who have been wronged or have blown the whistle, which is also something that Dr. Jane Doe was retaliated against for doing.
Okay, so once you make if your complaint is successful, are you trying to get her reinstated to her position, or are you trying to get the doctor removed? I mean, what were we trying to do, like, at the end of the day? Because something should happen. Something. I mean, we can't just let him get away with that.
Right. Well, obviously, Dr. Doe would like to continue her residency and become a full-fledged doctor. When she paid tuition to this university for 4 years, went through the ranks, and they promised her a residency, and once she graduated, they decided to make things difficult for her, and it's continued through today. And reinstatement is one option. That would be her first option. And her second option would be damages that she suffered. monetary damages. She moved out from California to St. Louis for this position, and shortly after that, she was terminated in retaliation, and she had to move back to California. It cost $10,000 each way. That's $20,000. Lost wages while she's been sitting around for over a year waiting for the EEOC. We finally got a mediation with St. Louis, and now they're dragging their feet and they're stonewalling. And they want to give her a couple crumbs off the table and refuse to acknowledge all of these violations. I mean, even the violations that occurred in the VA center were the billing by Dr. Neem. He admitted he wasn't even there. And yet he's charging them this money, and he's not performing the services. That's fraud.
Correct.
The federal government. That is huge.
Yes, because, one thing I did forget to mention, I confronted him and I said, you're not seeing any of these patients, because I've asked them if they have seen you. I describe you and I say your name to them, and they say, who? So they have, many of them had no idea who I was talking about. And then I started keeping track towards the end of the time that I was working with him, that he was committing government VA fraud by putting in his notes, I have personally seen this patient, but really I was the only one seeing the patient, kind of, thank God, in a way, but you can't do that. He feels that he can do whatever he pleases. Apparently, since Dr. Montopoli condones everything that he does. And let me just back up a step. When I was talking about speaking to Dr. Montopoli and telling her all about all the violations, when she said, that's it, what she did was not follow university protocol, not follow state protocol, but she took it upon herself to call Dr. Naeem himself and ask him if he'd committed these crimes, him and his best friend. Who does that? And then that's when I came out to find my tires in my car damaged from work that day. That was the very last day I worked there, January 14th.
So you feel after you told about that, his name is Mohammed Naeem, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So
she told me she was going to call him and his best friend.
And why was the best friend mentioned? Because where did the best friend come from?
Because Dr. Bott and Dr. Naeem are connected at the hip. And of course he's going to vouch for his buddy, so.
Oh, okay. So he called his friend and he gonna say, no, she lying. He wasn't doing this. He wasn't doing that. Okay. Yes. I got you. So let me ask you a question. Is criminal charges will be pressed about the assault? Because it is a form of assault when you do that to a woman or even a man. Like recently, just done a story about some women twerking on a man, and the police was charging them with assault just for doing that. So now, is that going to be charges pressed on Mr. Mohammed Naeem, since he like to touch women?
Well, that hasn't been discussed. We were primarily pursuing her civil rights, and the main goal of the complaint with the EEOC was for the protection and to make Dr. Jane Doe whole, to recover for her damages. Her career could be ruined by this.
Correct.
Because once you are let go from your residency or fellowship, it's difficult to get another one. What are you going to tell the next prospective? How do you explain it? It's so. This just would not happen in California. Absolutely.
Well, you know, St. Louis, Missouri has been really in the news as of late with all the racial tension and all different things with the police. So it really doesn't surprise me, you know, some things that I'm hearing. And then we all know the VA is just really screwed up, and it's an entity that really, in my opinion, needs to go. And like I stated before, we need to give our soldiers free health care. The senators get free health care. The president get free health care. So why can't the people who actually went out and risked their life and come back hurt for this country can't get free health care? That's what screwed up for me. And with this guy, he needs to be terminated. This is just my opinion. He needs to be terminated. You need to be financially compensated and given, you know, your position at another hospital, not that hospital, because obviously it's too much corruption and dirt going on over there where everybody's covering up racism, discrimination, anti-American sentiments, and people that don't really care about, you know, patients. And that's just completely wrong, 100%. We have a big problem in this country when it comes to all that. But before we wrap up, what you want everyone to know about the St. Louis University, you know, system, or the way we are treated as veterans in this nation?
The way the veterans are treated extremely poorly still. I know that they've tried to make some improvements, but the way that they're treated, like they're a pain for people to deal with, and they're put through so much red tape and through so much bureaucracy that it makes it almost impossible to even get someone on the phone to help them. It's just ridiculous. That needs to change. At the St. Louis University School of Medicine, there's Dr. Robert Haney is the one that dealt with all this. He knew that I was going to be promoted in a couple months and said I'd be protected. And then he stepped out of the way and decided to then start threatening me with dismissal and then got rid of me. He needs to be fired. He is not suited for that job. What he's doing is he's corrupt. He's racist himself. He's condoning what Dr. Naim has done. And he's, as far as I'm concerned, at a Jesuit institution hiding behind the cross with all of his corruption and bizarre thought processes. Because he turned to me and looked at me and asked me, what do you think that you did to cause the sexual harassment?
Wow, really?
Yes. And I thought,
what did you do? That's amazing.
This guy is really correct.
Wow.
I just have to say that they're all just they're back in the 1960s as far as their understanding of the law and women's rights. And sexual harassment is something that is illegal, is not to be tolerated under the law. The EEOC back in St. Louis isn't even doing anything. It turns out that the mediator who works for the EEOC there is a graduate of St. Louis University.
Oh, wow.
There's such a and I told him, I said, there's a conflict of interest here. I would expect the EEOC, at least in San Francisco, I think they would have gone to bat. I think they would have taken this case and filed a complaint with the court on their own, because they do that. They do it all the time. If they feel there's merit in a case, they don't even wait for an attorney, a private attorney, to bring the action. They bring it themselves. And I'm just appalled at the St. Louis EEOC.
It's the last old boys club, I think. And this has been going on for years. They've been getting away with this stuff for years and years and years. It's a shame. It's got to stop.
Well, the best way to, stop things is bring it to the forefront. A lot of people don't know these things, and that's why we do what we do here. We want to bring things out that's being hidden, stories that's not being covered, and let the people know about it. So, everyone that know any person who is a veteran going to the St. Louis University Medical Center, now let your friends know, let your family know that you got Muhammad Naeem in there. There's with a lot of anti-American sentiments. He's racist. He sexually harassed women, and they're covering it up there, and also other people who's racist, and that can't really be tolerated in a place that our veterans need help and they're dealing with PTSD and things like that. So
thank God for people like you. Thank you so much for having us on, so we could get the word out there that this is going on at our VA system.
Well, I definitely appreciate you, like I said, reaching out, letting us know, because, like I tell people, when I saw Arlington National Cemetery, I was like, wow, look how many people fought for this country, and all the graves are there. So we shouldn't treat veterans like that at all, and it really, pisses me off, because I've had, many family members fought for this country. So, I want to thank y'all for joining us here, and I hope you win your case. It should sound like a slam dunk to me, but remember his name, Dr. Mohammed Naeem. Remember his name, and if you see him, tell him about himself, because he don't really care about American people. Once again, he racist, and he likes to put his hands on women. But like I said, if Muhammad Naeem would have put a hand on my wife, Muhammad Naeem would have had his hand broke. But that's just me. I'm not advocating y'all do what I would do to defend my wife. But thank you for watching, everyone. Make sure you leave comments and subscribe.